You can find all those headlines and much, much more content on freightwaves.com. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. For the full Freightwaves experience, please go to tv.freightwaves.com. Right now, we're going to bring on our second Chris of the morning, second but not least for certain, Chris Pickett, Chief Strategy Officer at Flock Freight. Good morning, Chris. Thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Mike. Good morning, Kaylee. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
Great to have you guys as always, and as you mentioned, the second Chris, but not the last for sure. So thank you for joining us today. And we're going to dig into a topic that is definitely near and dear to Michael Vincent's heart. He's very passionate about this issue and talking about why should we focus on autonomy when we can focus on filling the trucks that we currently have. And at Flock Freight, that's kind of your guys' strategy, right? Is grouping together shipments, making things as full as possible to get things moving. Let's talk about why this is the problem at hand instead of looking towards the future of autonomy.
Sure. I mean, I think there's plenty of research and plenty of capital and plenty of talking points out there on the subject of autonomy and whether it's level 4, level 5, taking the human beings out of the trucks. And if the problem we're trying to solve is increasing safety, increasing predictability, absolutely, all day long, absolutely a viable strategy. If the objective is to remove the human altogether and therefore expect a dramatic cost reduction, we think we're pretty far out from that, right? So, rather than hoping that the robots are going to come in and save the day and solve the driver shortage and the truck shortage, we think there's all kinds of opportunity out there in the supply chain today, right? That can be unlocked just by facilitating collaboration across trading partners.
100% agree, Chris. I see the benefits of EV, especially where it comes to the efficiencies that are lost on the physical condition, the human condition of driving the truck, right? More efficient driving and being able to drive beyond the limited hours of service that you can drive right now will definitely improve capacity because you'll be able to turn that equipment forward. But to your point, if 30% of it is running with air, which is probably right, maybe a little understated, is only running air anyways, that's a huge improvement that we could be working on right now. And quite frankly, we're going to have to work on anyways once we get to EV, right? Is that your point?
Absolutely.
I agree with that 100%. So how do we get to that? How do we start focusing on that? Because I don't think EV is something we take away from, but to your point, we need to focus on this. So how are you guys doing that?
Well, we're out there working really hard to create really the first platform that uses technology to fundamentally change the way that freight moves, right? So what that means in simple form is, we want to pretty much own the 10 to 40 linear foot space out in the marketplace, right? We want to advocate for a spot in the routing guide, a spot in the procurement process for shared truckload as a standalone mode, right? Such that when those 4 to 20 pallet shipments come across, where it's maybe a little bit out of spec, a little overdimensional, a little bit expensive to move through a shipper's traditional hub and spoke LTL network, but not big enough to justify a full truckload. We want to be that reliable solution in the middle, right, to allow shippers, again, just the reliability and the confidence that, when that, middle kind of dimensional shipment's ready to move, there's a reliable solution out there in Flock Freight.
And so when people talk about cost-cutting strategies by using autonomy, a lot of that comes with the idea, well, we don't have to pay for the driver, right? We don't have to pay our drivers. We don't have to extend our fleet by hiring more people. But you have to have that initial payout when you're looking at employing those AV solutions into your fleet. And that's really expensive to get that autonomous technology into your fleet and make it work for your company. Can you talk a little bit about how the space that they have that's wasted, that 30% empty space, that air that's in those shipments, it's there and it's existing, and it's, as we talked about earlier, air is the most expensive commodity in freight, right? You have all of this empty space. So why are companies looking so far forward into the autonomous instead of trying to focus right now on solving those problems?
I think because it's super tempting and it's a really sexy idea and it's easy, relatively speaking, kind of a strange thing to think about, but, we're going to throw money at something and hope that innovation and technology by itself, will solve this for us versus doing the hard thing, which is taking a very hard look at the freight you move. But more importantly, you're looking across the rest of the supply chain, either your direct trading partners or other folks that are out there moving freight, and look for ways to work together. Right. And there is a reason why, this is not a new idea, taking less than truckloads and creating multi-stop truckloads. But the problem is it's super difficult for a single firm to do this, right? Because you're constrained by just the freight that's in your network, right? So you're pooling opportunities given the inherent volatility in anyone's supply chain. It's super tough to capture. So to really, leverage shared truckload at scale, you have to reach beyond right, the proverbial four walls of your organization, and there hasn't been a platform to date that's allowed shippers to consistently do that, or carriers, right? To be honest, right? So it's not just a shipper problem that we're looking to solve, or it's help fill the trucks.
Sure.
There's also a supply side solution where there's plenty of carriers and power units behind that 30% empty truck, where if there was a reliable place to come and look for top off opportunities to find 4 pallets, 6 pallets, 2 pallets, right, to leverage that unutilized space on the back of your trailer, we want to be the place where you come to do that.
And so to make this work, it involves a really, really good collaborative communication efforts between your shippers and your carriers, and everybody has to be talking to each other. But we're in this industry where everybody is so fragmented, and it is very, of course, money driven, and everybody's trying to make their own buck. Nobody wants to share their freight, much less make it consolidated, to save this space. So how do we change that mindset and get people kind of in the understanding that, this could be a viable solution? Is it going to take more market-changing events like what we've seen the last 2 years, or just like almost kind of like a big bomb to the system to make people realize that this is the viable option?
I think you lead with the unit economics. I think to your point, everyone's motivated by the money, the savings, the revenue opportunity. And I think what Flock has done is we're taking the front end risk, right? We're going to offer a shared truckload rate, guaranteeing your shipment's not going to go through any hub or consolidation point, with the expectation we'll be able to efficiently pool that shipment with another Flock load within the network and still meet the service requirements for your particular shipment, right? So we're taking that financial risk. But I think we're over time where you see more changes, more and more shippers realize that financial benefit, unlock that 30% savings of not subsidizing, right, that sailboat fuel, or more and more carriers that are realizing the economic benefit of moving shared truckload pools that fundamentally pay more per mile and per unit of time, realize the economic benefit from taking more small ship and partial top off loads, right, maximizing your revenue opportunity of the assets you already have in the marketplace. And I think as more of that continues across the marketplace, and we're seeing it today, I think we start to see more of a kind of that wave of change rippling across the supply chain community, right? We're on the very front end of this, and to make this work at scale, we need fundamental changes in commercial TMS platforms, right? Again, we need a shared truckload right there in the routing guide that can persist pricing tariffs that are a little bit different from LTL and a lot different from truckload, and to do that seamlessly as loads come through the routing guide, evaluate what's the right mode to ship this particular shipment, and then on through the execution process. We need high levels of visibility, right, to your point. I think the ultimate vision of all of this is, we want to create, right, this dense, river, for lack of a better analogy, right, flow of transportation capacity across the country, where every time an order comes off the line, you can make and release. Even if you don't have the volume that justifies full truckload transportation. 5 pallet load, a 10 pallet load, a 14 pallet load, rather than having that material sitting around, you're taking up space, you're waiting for enough material to aggregate to justify paying that full truckload rate, move it shared truckload and keep everything moving that much faster. But to do that, you need great information, you need great reliability, you need great transparency. And quite frankly, the industries, we're just not there yet. We've come a long way in terms of connectivity technologies, visibility. Now it's all about how do we collaborate across all these digital silos, right, to share our own visibility so we all know where that available capacity is at any given point in time.
Chris, you mentioned that high level of visibility that's needed, and visibility has been kind of this buzzword tossed around the industry for the last 2 years or so. Do you guys have any people that you think are specifically doing things really well in that visibility network, or any partners that you guys are looking to work with in the future to really pull in that visibility component to what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, I think you've got kind of the big two or the big three, arguably, with Project 44, and Fork Heights, and a lot of work has been done to create the collective appreciation of what visibility can do. But there's still a lot of fragmentation kind of underneath there in terms of, where even they are aggregating their points in the map, whether it's from a very fragmented ELD industry, cell phone communications, all the other creative ways we get to find where that dot on the map is. But just having the dot on the map, the lat long and timestamp, is not enough. Ultimately, we need, certainly that, but also, where that dot's headed, and when. And ultimately, what we want is actually visibility in the trailer. So even with all the great work that's been done around ELD tracking and tracking the power unit or the cell phone that's in that driver's pocket, over time we want to see what's in the back of that trailer, or more specifically what's not in the back of that trailer. That helps us understand where we have underutilized capacity. We can reach out across the Flock platform try to create more efficient pools.
So, Chris, help me understand this a little bit more. At the very beginning, you said that you guys are playing in that 10 to 40 foot rule, right? That's where you guys want to play and right. Can you break that down a little bit more for us? Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit confused as to what extent people or what extent your customer base, the target you're going for is, right? Is it exclusively that kind of almost volume spot market contract LTL all the way up to almost a truckload? Or is it less than that and consolidating almost like a zone skipping or a pool distribution thing? How far do the two parameters go? Can you define that a little bit more, Chris?
Yeah, I can. And I say 10 to 40 to kind of simplify in terms of where we see the greatest relative value for shippers that are out there looking at either to a substitute for volume LTL, but really it's anywhere from one pallet all the way up to full truckload, right? So there's a certain segment of freight, even the 1 to 2 pallets, where a shipper may choose to want to move that load faster. Right. So versus going through their typical hub and spoke LTL network, you're jumping through consolidation points, your freight gets touched, twice every time you hit one of those. There's certain, modes of freight out there that, there's a value of moving faster, right? Especially in, the volatile times that we're in. There's a value in not getting your freight broken, right? But just because it gets touched that many, anytime you got a forklift touching a skid, the likelihood of something bad happening, right, goes higher and higher, right? So we believe it's a premium substitute for some portion of a shipper's LTL spend. All of it, probably not, but certainly some of it. And we also believe there's a great opportunity for the other side of it, right, which is the truckload freight that's paid full, not full, right? So that 10 pallet and up, load that it just happens your truckload rate's cheaper than your volume LTL rate. So by de facto rule, it just goes to a truckload carrier in the routing guide, paying that full truckload rate, right? So on the one hand, we believe it's a premium offering for LTL consumers. But in some ways, an economy offering or a lower cost, more efficient offering for the truckload shipping community that's not actually utilizing a full truckload of capacity.
Excellent stuff, Chris. Thanks for that.
The reality is we need both, right? So to create these efficient tools, we need enough under 10 to match with the over 28.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well spoken, well said. Thanks for that explanation, Chris. Very interesting stuff. Thanks for being here. We'll hopefully have a conversation again very, very soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to head over to the wall once again. We're going to check in for our last carrier update of the day with Zach and Anthony.